and welcome to Sound Art Sunday, episode number 5. Today is exciting. We've been working on a project here at Critical Mass. It's a pilot project funded by the Ontario Trillium Foundation to develop a mobile app that hosts a series of artist-designed sound walks and soundscapes. It's going to animate the public spaces of Port Hope and bring contemporary art experiences to us in our phones, in our pockets. That is so good. And for this episode of Sound Art Sunday, we're meeting the artists behind one of these walks. Welcome, Donna Akrey and Taien. And so good to have you here.
Hello, nice to be here.
Hi.
Together, you two form part of a group known as the Hamilton Permabulatory Unit. Can you tell us a little bit about your practice with this collaborative group?
Go for it, Taien.
Well, so Donna and I are not originally from Hamilton. I moved here in 2013 and Donna, I think in 2012, something like that. And with our colleague, Sarah Truman, who is also a transplant, we decided that walking around the city was the best way to get to know it. And we all had walking practices already. And when we discovered that, we were like, oh, let's form a group. Let's form an artist group. And that was when Hamilton Perambulatory Unit was born. And we thought, oh, we just say HPU because it is a ridiculously long name. Kind of funny. Then we just started integrating it into all our practices. And that's when we started having workshops, and map making is a big part of my practice. So we do a lot of map making, and sound walks became part of it, sculpture, writing, all of these things.
Yeah, it's just been a really interesting project for us to take on. I'm a visual artist, and Taien comes from a writing background, but also makes visual art and sculpture, and now we collaborate. So this is a really nice extension of our work anyways, and we're both teachers, and we both walk around a lot. So we get to use this group as a way to research things that really interest us and kind of penetrate the beyond the sort of the map of places, and really kind of get into the places that we live and perambulate in.
So we've been investigating sound art as a concept in this space for the last few Sundays. What's the role that sound plays in your artwork?
I'll start. I do make sculpture and installation, and have been making performative work. So it's snuck in there and is becoming more a part of my work, I would say. And recently I did a piece called Transistor, which was kind of a choreographed work for 6 people on bicycles, each playing different sounds. And the audience sat this was during pandemic, socially distanced apart from each other, and the cyclists would ride around them playing different sounds, so that people sitting would experience it that way. So that's an example of just one work that I've made recently, incorporating my sculpture and performance into sound. And Taien?
Yeah, that was a great piece, Donna. I loved it.
Thank you.
For myself, as you said, I began as a writer, and I did playwriting for a while, and it's a lot, all sorts of poetry, listening to the sound, in the rhythms of language. But I also did some radio plays for the CBC back in the early 2000s, back when they did radio plays, and that was my actually first foray into using sound as a medium just by itself. And that branched off into doing sound pieces, researching what the city sounds like. I did an interactive atlas of Montreal, and there was a lot of sound pieces meant to be listened to on the bus or the metro. And then I did a podcast sound piece for the subway in Toronto. And so that led me to this locative sound. So where you attaching sound art to actual locations that you can access by your phone, and that's what we're ending up doing in Port Hope.
So could you tell us, both of you, if how your work shows the influence of any of the sound artists we've been looking at on Sound Art Sunday?
I think sound art kind of sneaks up on you. Of course, if you're interested in music, you listen, and I think growing up in the 80s, 90s, there was Laurie Anderson, Yoko Ono, and improv music in the 90s, and Fred Frith, and Bob Ostertag, and Rene Lussier, and Ciro Baptista, and all these artists that I was already interested in, and they kind of pulled me towards different kinds of sounds. Fred Frith, for example, making different kinds of sound on a guitar, but also as an art student, studying Dada and the Futurists, and Cabaret Voltaire, and Kurt Schwitters, and Vito Acconci, and all these different artists that use sound in these ways. And I was like, what is this thing? It's amazing. I really loved it. And you talked about Alvin Lussier. I am sitting in a room, and I remember the first time I heard that piece and really associating that with sound and space, and sound in space, and this ephemeral thing that we can't really see, and the kind of intimacy of sound as opposed to visual work, the way that sound enters our ears, and how we feel it in our bodies. Anyways, sound art is it's amazing, and I'm so happy that we're embarking on this with Hamilton Permabulatory Unit. Yeah.
Thanks. That really brings home the special qualities of the medium of sound within art. And Taien, what about you? How have any of the artists that we've looked at in Sound Art Sundays, how can they be linked up to your work?
Oh, definitely. It's been such a great series, and I've learned a lot myself from from your dive into different decades of sound art. And the one of the artists that is closest to my heart is actually Janet Cardiff and George Burrs Miller, and they're I actually have a filmmaking background as well, and so narrative plays a large part in the work that I do. But with Janet Cardiff and Miller, the way that they place narrative in space was really influential to me. They actually call it like physical cinema, where the visuals is the world, right? It's and the soundtrack is what makes it cinematic. And actually, Cardiff and Miller, their technique of binaural recording, they were one of the first people to use and pioneer this recording technique. So normally you have like stereo, mono, like all these different kinds of techniques for recording sound. And binaural is a kind of stereo recording, meaning it uses two microphones. But the specific thing is that it imitates the way that your ears actually hear, or that your brain has the sound, like hears the sound. And so what Janet Cardiff and Miller, they had a dummy head with actual ears on the head, and the recording, the mics like inside these fake ears, and that's what they use. I can't afford a whole, the dummy head setup, but I do have a binaural mic setup, and I'm going to show that to you. My binaural recording, and you might be able to see.
Zoom in on that ear. We want to see that ear, that fake ear closer. That's awesome.
And it mimics your head, and it mimics the actual way that sound enters your ears, and has a space between it, which is like your head, and it really provides a spatial awareness of sound. So if you hear something on the right, you can really, and obviously people who are into ASMR, right? You may have heard of that, where they whisper and you get like these chills, right? This is binaural recording is great for that. But this is the technique that you want to use to record field sounds in Port Hope, to really give a sense of immersion into that landscape.
Oh, that is so great. And I love the way both of you in your explanation tied the idea of space to sound. It is something that is so spatially driven as an art form. Can you kind of give a couple of little teasers there about what you're doing for us here in Port Hope, but can you give us a bigger glimpse? Don't give it all away, but let us know what's going on.
So Taien will be doing the recording of the space in Port Hope. So we're from Hamilton. We don't know Port Hope. So this is in effect our way of investigating a place we don't know, and immersing ourselves in it, and learning from it via sounds and also the sounds of people's voices. So Taien will be recording some of the soundscapes around Port Hope in the downtown area. And I'm going to be hopefully talking with some more people, residents of Port Hope, on the telephone or via Zoom, and recording their voices, which will then become part of the soundscape. We're interested in the different layers that you find in a place, which we call strata. So for example, the bandstand, which we were both immediately attracted to in Port Hope, everyone I've talked to so far has some kind of story about the bandstand. We're interested in talking to people about their own personal walks through Port Hope, or walking on the streets, or a street corner, or a memory, or what the smell on the beach is like, or anything. It doesn't have to be a story, even just sound bites, so that we are in effect creating a kind of layered response to our walk through Port Hope that we can then share with people who use the app. Yeah.
That sounds great. I like feeling about my town like it is a layer cake that's going to be discovered by you guys. We're
I
super
think so.
pumped.
And everyone I've talked to has talked about there's something magical about Port Hope. And I think Taien and I felt that the first time we went. So we'd like to just talk to people some more uh, about your town.
Great. So that sounds like an opportunity for us Port Hopians to be super involved in your project. Am I hearing an invitation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would
Okay,
love
then.
to talk to them, get in touch with you guys, and I'm pretty I'm safe. You can talk to me about it. I'd love to talk to you. I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say, even if it's a 2-minute conversation. It doesn't have to be exhaustive. The more voices, the better. We're trying to get a layered, beautiful symphony of Port Hopians.
A symphony of Port Hopians. Taien, Donna, this sounds great. Thank you so much for giving us a little glimpse into your practice and what you have planned for us. So appreciated. And for those of you who've listened, DM us if you want to be part of this project. You get to talk to Donna. That's pretty fun, I gotta say. And we can't wait to see both of you on the streets of Port Hope with Taien with that fabulous little gizmo in your hand. Now we know what it is. There are other ways to be involved in this project too, everybody. Stay tuned next week when Debbie Beatty, our program director, will be taking over this space. And she's gonna reveal a little bit more and talk to you about other ways that you can get involved, because we're all a part of making the art. See you next week.